Hello. So today we have Harshbir CA Harshbir Singh Oberoi with us, who is a management consultancy expert. He's currently placed at KPMG in the same management consultancy department itself. Hi Harshbir. It's wonderful to have you
Hi,
over.
hi, Trishka. Hi, thank you so much for having me over. Thank you so much for the introduction as well, and really looking forward for the session.
Definitely. I think a lot of students are going to definitely benefit a lot out of this video and all your insights on this whole domain that is one of the most
Yeah.
looked forward towards, or like most of the students want to get into it, but just don't know
Oh yeah.
what is the right blend or what is the right ingredients
Hmm.
or what is the right thing that they need to do to get into this profile. I'm sure that your insights are going to help them
Absolutely.
a lot to
Oh
get.
yes, yes. Yeah. We'll definitely look forward to having the session as useful, as crisp, as brief as possible, so that they have the most of it to make.
Yeah, okay. So let's get started with the questions, Asbir. Ready to go?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Totally.
So let's start off with you sharing some insights on what management consultancy as a domain is. Can you tell us
All
what?
right.
Yeah.
So, as a domain, as a field, normally it's very known that, okay, it's a very niche field. But why is it a niche field? It's a niche field because you're talking to the C suite of the management of the company. So, you're talking to the senior most people, you're talking to the CFOs, to the CEOs, discussing what the problems are, what the industry functions like, where they stand in the industry, how their market share is. So, you're talking to them one on one to understand their business, to understand the industry. In this particular profile, you not only just get to know about their business, you get to know about the industry, about their functions, how they operate, how they are managing at the moment, and how they are managing their finances. So you get a very holistic view of the whole business as a whole. So you just
Right.
get the integrated whole. You don't just get a gist. You get into the business, understand how it actually functions. So this is a profile that helps you get that solutioning mindset, understanding the business, getting to know about everything from an industry perspective, from a company's perspective, from a profit making perspective. So all of that is what this profile is all about. So it does not restrict you to one particular domain like finance. You're not just talking about finance. You're not just talking about costing. You're not just talking about profits. You're talking about management over here. You're talking about organizational structure over here. So
Mhm.
it's like 100% that you get, and not just like a 5 or 10%, like normally what the CAs are supposed to do, like just audit, just tax. It's not that. It's like whole into the business, so you are 100% in. So that's what this profile is all about. You're a solution provider as a consultant.
Okay, so to brief it, I think we can say that a management consultant is basically a person who's sitting like who's taking a bird's eye view on the whole business and taking a 360-degree view and then providing solutions. So it is a very
Absolutely.
wholesome profile, we could tell that
Yeah,
that's why it is a niche profile because to have that kind of
absolutely.
a vision or the foresight is what one requires to get into it. So I
Mhm.
think that's what makes
Yeah.
it a very special profile to get in.
So
So
if we
what
talk
does
about the
yeah.
profile and what it basically looks like,
Mhm.
it would be basically the client comes to you with a solution. Since you're a professional, you're a CA or you're an MBA or whatever, like the professional that you are, for that, the client comes to you with a problem that, okay, they are not making enough profits, they are not making enough sales, they are not breaking even. So when we say what this profile basically looks like, it would be more of a consultant being a solution provider. So if I'm there to analyze why the profits are not up or why the sales are not up, which is basically their finance perspective, like, okay, the sales are not going up. That's more on the finances side that, okay, things are not happening clearly or the profits are not going up. Again, a finances issue. We have the
Correct.
costs high.
Yeah.
So right now, what we need to do as a consultant is go there, talk to them, get a whole idea of why the costing is high. And when we're just talking about why the costing is high, we actually go up to the sales department, ask them why this is happening. We go downstream to the workforce to see how many people are there. So eventually, we started with just finance, but see, we went upstream, we went downstream. So in a way, we got the whole view of the business. So as a solution provider, when I start with A, I go to B, Z, and everything. So it's like that's what gives me a 360 view, because you are looking for this one solution only, but for that one solution, you kind of travel the whole business. So that's what makes it wholesome.
So I think that then as a management consultant, one skill that I can already pick up is you need to really have good people. Obviously, you need to be a good solution
Absolutely.
provider and you need to be a
Yeah,
people's person. You need to like
absolutely.
actually talk to people and understand that, okay, what is
Yeah.
the problem? And you need to you need to do that digging stuff. So
Yes.
I think
Yeah, you do.
we
You do.
have a very clear picture on what this profile looks like. What
Yeah.
are the industries that a management consultant needs to know about? Like all of them, or like is there like a particular industry one needs to be aware of? Like what is that about?
So there's no particular industry, because of course the clients are well ranging. They are, if you're working in a big four, suppose if you are a CA fresher, then big fours have a high probability of getting you hired. So if you're working in a big four, of course, huge variety of clients are there. There are clients from FS industry, financial services. There are clients from probably you could say manufacturing sector, or even consumer goods. So all of these clients are in the portfolio of that big four, of any consulting company for that matter. So what normally happens is that when you get a client, you get to read about the industry, you get to educate yourself before you actually go to the client. So if we are asking from an interview perspective what a candidate needs to know about industries, then of course I would say whatever the candidate is mentioning on his or her CV, that they have probably audited or done tax work in this particular company. So instead of mentioning the company's name, they might as well just mention the industry's name and get to study about that particular industry, because the highest chance of an interviewer asking a technical question would be around exactly that industry. They don't want to know about how many skills you have or what you do, where you do. They don't want to know about audit. They don't want to know about tax, because that's not what will make them aware about you. What they want to know is, as a CA fresher, if you are being hired, they exactly just want to know, are you open to learning about industries? And when you're working in an industry, be it audit or tax, do you get to also get some awareness about the industry as a whole? Are you holistic in your education in nature when you are working with something? That's what they want to know. Because in management consultancy, when while you're working, you have to do a lot of education yourself while you are delivering to the client, to know about the industry. And you have to also seem very intelligent in front of the client so that they just don't take you for a toll. So all of
Right.
that is kind of very important, that you have to kind of educate yourself, and that's like an ongoing process. So make sure whatever you have on your CV written as industries, worked here, worked there, you read about them, you read in depth about them, so that the interviewer gets really impressed by what you have as an industry knowledge.
Okay, so I think from what you say, I understand that a candidate appearing for an interview needs to be very, very well versed with the industries that he's actually worked in. Like even if
Yeah.
he's done an audit or a taxation for any company, then he needs to
Mhm.
understand that what kind of an environment was that business functioning in? How did it like perform,
Exactly.
and what was it? How did it look like from
Yeah.
the inside, outside, everything basically. You need to really
Absolutely.
be
Absolutely.
sharp on your points. Like, okay, this is how that
Yeah.
industry, all of those things are,
So,
right?
so I'll give you an example with it.
Yeah, yeah,
When I entered management consultancy, I was basically an auditor. I worked with EY as an auditor,
right.
and I had mentioned on my CV that I have audited in the power sector. So
Okay,
now the power sector, that particular industry caught the eye of the interviewer, and
correct.
he asked me very basically, like, do you know what a PLF is? What is the full form of PLF and what it means? So now that term is very common in the power industry. So
Yeah.
I knew that it's plant load factor. And I did not know it while I was working, but I actually learned while I was going through the study of the industry. So I think something like that really impresses them, because sometimes even they have worked in that particular industry and they expect you to know certain common things around it. So
Correct.
that's what helps.
So I think that before you go for an interview, you need to scan through the like the
Yeah.
financials or the books. Like you need to know that okay, this was what
Yeah.
I actually worked in, because anything can come your
Mhm.
way. Like it's going to be a total surprise that
Yeah.
okay, and you it's always
Absolutely.
dependent on the interviewer that if he is well aware, he may like drill down and go on
Yeah.
asking you
He may
questions
probe you to the best extent
to the
possible,
best
or he
extent.
might just be like, okay, fine, fine, you know the
Yeah,
overview, you're good.
yeah,
So it really depends on what he is.
yeah. So it's always best to be prepared for the worst. So you,
Oh,
curate all
yeah,
the best answer for everything that you put on
absolutely.
that CV. Okay.
Right, right, right,
So,
right.
Spear, are there any particular skill sets that interviewers are looking for in this domain?
Okay, so as you said, a people's person is definitely important. And when we talk about a people's person, we are here looking at communication. Now, when I say communication, I'm not in particular saying fluency in English. I'm not saying fluency in a particular language. But what I'm saying is the part to express. Are you able to express properly? If you have a problem or a solution in your mind, are you able to brainstorm that together? Are you able to
Hmm.
say that, okay, this is what I'm thinking should be the solution? Because in this profile there'll be a lot of sitting together as consultants, as senior consultants, and then you are brainstorming and coming up with a solution. So you have to be expressing that a lot. That's the part of communication that you need to get. Of course, problem identification would be a skill, that if someone is telling you something, are you able to pick point the exact key gap? Then problem solving, definitely. And also, if you talk about the technical or the computer skills, then PowerPoint presentation is definitely the only thing we use. We don't use Excels at all. We just use PowerPoint presentation to make proposals, to make deliveries of the implementation roadmaps as such and everything. Then also, there should be no resistance to change. When you are sitting and brainstorming, and if you have a solution in your mind, you shouldn't be saying that, okay, this is my solution and this is the best. You don't know what's the best. We have to give the client alternatives. So we actually don't know what it is. You should have also the interviewing techniques. You should be able to probe the person you are speaking with. You, like, if you have a client, you're talking to him, you shouldn't be sounding rude. Again, you should be fine talking to him or her, and you should be able to probe questions and get the required information out of it. So that's also very important. And of course, data analytics and industry analysis is kind of an add on. It's not a mandatory skill as such. But if
Yeah.
you have a certain data on Excel, you should be able to do some trend analysis, something of that sort should come in your mind like instantaneously. And also to read about industries is one skill that one should have. Not having the industry knowledge, of course, that's the best, but to be able to analyze an industry when some information is coming to you. So that kind of skill is also required at various levels to get hired.
So I think you've pointed out some of the really important skills. Like first you said about, you talked about communication skills. I think we
Yeah.
can go on for hours saying that how
Oh, yeah.
important communication is, because
Oh,
if you're
yeah,
not
yeah,
able
yeah.
to put your ideas into the best words, and what's in your mind is not getting
Absolutely.
transferred to the other person, then
Yeah.
you may have the best thing on mind, but it may not get delivered. So I think
Yeah, absolutely.
communication is one thing that a candidate should be good at. Like at least he
Hmm.
should be able to put the best his
Yeah.
ideas into the best words possible. Second, you said that
Hmm.
an idea problem identification, like
Yeah.
he should be sharp enough to understand that, okay, if this is the whole scenario, what are the problems or what are the glitches or where I
Hmm.
need to step in and what is my
Yeah.
contribution and how would I provide a solution to this. I
Absolutely.
think
Yes.
that's the third skill that a candidate would require. And the fourth one is PPT skills. Obviously, that is like the basis of
Absolutely.
whatever
Yeah.
management consultant is basically projecting that, okay, this is how the problem looks like, and this is how I am going to bring a change, and I
Provide a
am
solution. Yeah.
yeah, provide a solution, and I'm going to make it better
Hmm.
this particular way.
Yeah.
So I think these
Hmm.
are the key idea or the skill sets
Absolutely.
that a candidate
Yeah.
should possess, and of course having an open mind is what is required to like
Yeah.
be
Extremely
open to
important.
take and
Yeah.
listening to your client, what the client has to speak, and all of those things are
Yeah.
also extremely important. And
Absolutely.
data analytics and trying to understand what an industry is, I think being well
Right.
versed with what is happening, the trends, or like your daily updates is something that could again help a
Yeah.
candidate to be
I mean, a
prepared.
conscious effort of getting to exactly know what's happening around is kind of
Correct,
important. It
correct.
tells a lot about how aware you are.
Okay. So for you, if
Yeah.
suppose you are the interviewer, what would an ideal
Mhm.
CV for you look like for this domain? Like, what is that
So,
one eye-catching thing that you would see in a CV and like, take a candidate like that? Is there something like that?
So, okay, I'd answer your questions in two parts. Your question in two parts. So, I would say if you're looking at a fresher and we are supposed to hire him or her. So now, when we're looking at a fresher, I'm not in particular looking a lot in the CV. All I'm looking for in the CV is the industry. Like, has the person mentioned the name of the industry, and am I will I be able to ask him questions in that? If the person only says that, okay, I have just filled income tax returns, now that person has nothing to do with industry. He has already gotten some numbers, crunched those numbers, set off, carry forward something he has done, and just uploaded it on the website. Nothing major. So that would be a very inferior kind of a CV for me. I want to know about the industries you've worked in. I want to know the audit work you've done, the tax work you've done, and have you really gone too far in your craft while you're working on all of these things? So I want to know the industries. So that's very, very important to me. And as an article, if I see freshers, then people have worked in industries. Definitely. There would be no one exactly just filling
Yeah,
ideas for three
definitely.
years. So
Sure.
definitely they have done some industry work, something. Even the ROC work is good enough for me, because if you have done that, you know what it is, you know what the formalities look like. Because as a consultant, sometimes you're just hired to do formalities. So even that
Correct.
is good. But I want to know, I want to see the craft of your work, the diversity. So definitely that's for a fresher. And of course, for a fresher, the interview becomes very important, because I want to understand from him, and I want to exactly know, can I mentor him? Can I make him go through the lifestyle of consulting? Can I actually make him come to the standard of my company? So all of this is really important when I'm looking at a fresher. Now, when I'm looking at an experienced person, suppose an experienced in audit, or some experienced CA, I would say, then again, first thing, definitely I'm looking at industries. Secondly, I'm also looking at the solutions the person has provided apart from whatever their role was. If you were an auditor and you have like looked at certain things which were going wrong, were you able to communicate that to the management or to the internal auditor per se? Were you able to do all of those activities of solution or problem identification? I want to know that. I want to know the technologies you worked in, because this is very important for me to understand. Do you have those that ambit of technology, that knowledge of doing some data analytics, anything of that sort? That is also extremely important to me. So yeah, these kind of two three things I would look at in a CV, and probably would go ahead and bring him to consulting or her to consulting. So that would be something that I would look in an experienced CV. Now that experience doesn't necessarily have to be consulting, but if the person wants to make a switch, then I just want that switch to not exactly be parallel, but not really downward sloping in that person's career to just give him a
Correct.
very
Correct.
lower starting position to
Yeah.
start with. So I want to see technology, I want to see consulting, I want to see solution in his or her
Mhm.
CV, no matter what the profile is.
So I think so for a fresher, there is a one good takeaway from this would be that it would be better if he's breaking up his work experience into the industries that he's worked in, rather than just breaking
Yeah.
up into the kind of work that he's done. Maybe he
Yes.
filed returns, or he's done TDS, or
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
that is. But rather just
Mhm.
show us the diversity that you worked in, like show us what kind of different companies you
True.
touched, or what are the different profiles that you worked under. So I think that, and
Very true.
what, and for a person who's experienced, I think it would be better if you show like what kind of an impact did you have in this work, or
Yeah.
like how did you contribute, or what was the solution that you provide, or how does your brain actually
Absolutely.
work into bringing
Hmm. Hmm.
solutions to the desk, so to the
Yes.
table.
Exactly.
Okay. I
Exactly.
think that's a
Yes.
good takeaway for a lot of candidates.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
what are the technical questions that one may have to face in a management consultancy interview?
So again, if you're looking at a fresher, uh, so I have seen that as a fresher, I'm not really going into questions and asking them very technically on, okay, what does this mean? What does that mean? I'm not doing that,
Mhm.
because I am eventually there to coach them. What
Exactly.
I'm looking at is, are they able to speak properly? Will they be able to converse with the particular clients I have? So all of that, of course, I'm looking at the industries they have specified in the CV, and I'm asking them very, very general questions about them because, of course, as an article, I know that they might not have been given so much exposure out there as an article to kind of go
Right,
ahead and work in the
right,
industry.
right.
So it's going to be very quick, as in very, very basic about the overview, how it's going like and stuff like that. As a fresher, I would do that. Then definitely as an experienced person, if I'm here to judge someone, if I'm here to ask someone anything technical, then definitely very technical questions on the industry, like if, like I said, in the power industry, I would ask them, okay, what is the industry average of profits that they are making? What do you think are the best sales that we look at when we're looking at that particular industry? So of course, the sales number, I want to know the profit number. Like if you're saying that I know about this industry, what are the projections? What are the numbers? What do you think is the best number out there? What are the best industry practices in every kind of domain? So if you're looking at these processes like procure to pay, order to cash, record to report, all of these are some processes where we as a management consultant work, and even auditors work to check controls, IFCs. So all of that, I want to know how much experience you have over there in those domains. So if you're looking at internal financial controls, and if you're looking at procure to pay, so I'll ask the person to walk me through the process, like in your
Okay.
particular industry. If you say
Yeah,
that I
yeah,
worked in manufacturing, walk me through
right.
the process. What is it? From where does it start? Where does it end? When do we journalize? All of that.
Mm.
I give them particular questions on in between that. Okay, the invoice did not receive me, then what? So stuff like that. So that's something I would probe into for an experienced individual.
Okay, so I think as a fresher, there may not be a lot of technical questions coming your way, but as an
Yeah.
experienced person, definitely there's a lot of probing happening. Like you will be
Yes.
asked questions to understand that, okay, if you're mentioning these things or if you're saying that you've done this work, then give us a like tell like let me see how good are you
Absolutely.
at it, or like let me see how
Right.
much did you actually understand out of what you've
Understand.
done. And so I think that would
Yes.
be a very good way to judge a candidate,
Very
like how
important.
good enough is he going to be to handle
Yes.
the work and all
Yes.
of
Yes.
that.
Yes.
So Ashbir,
Absolutely.
are there any good case studies or anything like a common case study that usually can come a student's way when they are trying to crack an interview for management consulting?
So, Trishika, when we're looking at case studies over here, we are definitely looking at the problems that normally a client faces.
Right.
So the problem can be as basic as so I basically remember when I joined the company, I basically was asked that, okay, if a company wants to prepare itself for an IPO,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think as a consultant you are there to sit with them and make them prepared for an IPO that comes
Mm-hmm.
forward? So what do you think would be the best possible way to go ahead with? So IPOs are kind of one of the favorites of the interviewers to ask a case study on.
Okay.
Definitely.
Uh-huh.
Then extremely basic questions like when you're talking about if I'm reconciling and the reconciliation is being done
Uh-huh.
manually at this point of time, what do you think are the solutions to it? The possible solutions. What should we do? And the CFO is doing the reconciliation of two things. So what do you think? So of course the answers would lie in, of course, implementing technology. Since you said it was manual, then of course it would be like if the CFO is doing it, can be delegated to someone. We want to know the costing
Correct.
involved in this particular activity, the
Right.
frequency of the reconciliations that you do, and then that's how we basically come down to the solution. So that's how the basic case study kind of works. It can be as normal as a CFO doing reconciliation and quick as an answer that you would get that, okay, if it's being done manually, it should be done technically, it should be done technologically. But when we're talking about IPOs, definitely I don't expect people to know a lot about IPOs. What they can do is just be very brief with, okay, when we're looking at technology, the technologies should have the rates or the market rates, or even the analysis should be done automatically. We might just hire people who are CFAs or experts in the market, who are investment bankers who can judge the trend of the market and have the most made out of the public money that we raise. Then of course there should be a person who should be controlling the functions of the CFA, who should be looking at or reviewing the work of CFAs and whatever they are doing for the market. So all of that, now these are basic answers, but they are valid answers. Since I do
Right.
not know a lot about IPOs, I can give basic but valid answers just to tell the interviewer that I have not read it enough. But yeah, once I read it, my solutioning quality would definitely improve. But yes, I have solutions right now as well, and not one, but two, three, because I am giving alternatives to you. So all of that really helps.
So I think in a case study based scenarios, interview is not really judging the candidate on how right or how
Yeah,
perfect the answer is, but what kind of a solution or how broad can the candidate think, like, okay, how
exactly.
can he, like, how broad he can go or how much deeper he could
Yeah,
think into the problem. I think it's your
absolutely.
questioning mind that is getting judged here rather than your whether your
Right.
answer is right or wrong will be secondary, but primary is do you
Absolutely.
have the ability to think in the right direction. So I
Yeah,
think,
so I would basically suggest a
yeah.
person who is being subjected to to a case study
Hmm.
to have just two things in mind. And whenever he is, and I say this to a lot of people always, that whenever you are listening to a case, always ask the person questions on the key limitations, on the key gaps, on the problems. Basically,
Okay,
write down those problems in a piece of paper while the interview is going on, and give solutions to exactly those problems. It would make your
that's
case study look very simple.
wonderful. Yeah. So
So
structuring the
that's,
problem that's given to you would be a very
yeah,
good way to come to a solution. So I think this is
absolutely,
a nice
absolutely. And ask
takeaway.
them questions. That's
Yeah, yeah,
totally okay. Ask them questions.
right. Because sometimes the interviewer may purposely not give you all the facts to just see whether
Exactly,
you are asking the right questions, right?
exactly,
So I
exactly. That
think
happens a lot. Yeah,
I I
yeah, yeah.
think that is one thing one should just keep in mind while approaching these case
Yes,
studies.
yeah.
So Ashbir, is there any material or source that you think would be like a good source to refer to? Is there something that in particular direction a candidate should be prepared in?
Trust me, I honestly am against these sources because when
Yeah.
we are looking at these sources and when we are looking at these case studies, very normally, because I mean, as a CS student, I used to learn and I used to basically read and then restrict my mind to that. Because when a question came in the paper, I am actually thinking of, okay, I read this from the study material and I need to write exactly what I've read, nothing out of the box, because that will only fetch me marks. Now, that kind of mind we don't want in the interview. We
Right.
really want to think out of the box. So, I don't want anyone, any person who's going for a management consultancy interview to restrict his or her mind to the best possible solutions out there in the market. Instead, think, we know that we are
Yeah.
hiring you and you are new. So, definitely you are that, you're like water and we need to kind of mentor you and get you into the best possible container. So, we don't expect you to have the bestest answers, because if you were the best, we wouldn't have been hiring you. You would have been probably opening your own company.
Correct.
So that's the way. I'm not actually, again, I'm not in for the books for reading before you go for an interview. You should be as clear as possible, but you should be aware definitely of what's happening around. That's what will impress the interviewer. Anyone can read and go, but it's like, are you aware enough to go to an interview just open minded and then read about it?
I think this is one out of the box solution, not the solution, but a tip, because
Yeah.
I think most of them would be of the idea that, oh, I need to read this, I need to read that. And
Yeah.
they have a list of books that they're going on reading about. But I
Yes.
think one thing that we miss is that we actually have to trust our own intelligence
Have
and
to.
our own thinking capabilities rather than relying on what is
Absolutely.
done previously or what
Right.
who answered. Like, be there, have your facts right, but
Hmm.
then obviously apply your own brains and trust your own intelligence is
Very
the
true. Very
best
true.
is the best
I mean, don't just
solution to this.
restrict your mind to a
Correct,
particular
correct, correct,
situation.
correct. I think this
That's
is
just
what
it.
we are doing wrong by referring these books. Rather than doing it right,
Yeah.
we are getting it wrong. Like, we're just giving the,
Exactly.
and I think there's a bright possibility that an interviewer may not take you if you're giving textbook answers. Like, if he sees that, okay,
Exactly.
you're just reading out things that you've just read and you're just telling me that
Yeah.
you've not applied anything.
Right.
There's no creativity from your side that's
Of
come to the
course.
table.
Of
So I
course.
think
If
that's
the
a
interview asks you
wonderful.
one how, one why to that particular answer you give, you'll of course be stuck because you did not read it in the book.
Exactly,
So then
exactly.
what's the point?
That shakes you up a bit in an interview, and you're like all
Exactly.
over the place suddenly. Like, oh, what do I do in
Exactly.
this situation?
Yeah. What just happened? Yeah.
Yeah.
That happens.
Okay, so I think that
Yeah,
was a great tip, and this is something that a lot of us should keep in mind. So actually,
absolutely.
there's a lot of noise about these companies. When we talk about management consultancy, I think the second thing that comes to our mind is companies like BCG, Accenture,
Yeah.
and Bain and Company. So, and most of
Mm-hmm.
the students are targeting these companies. So, what is your view
Yeah.
and opinion about getting into these companies?
Okay. So if I talk about the work that they do, trust me, I've seen in all these companies because I've seen people taking parallel transfers from KPMG to all of these companies. So I have seen people doing exactly the same work. There is no difference on the work, the projects that they get, the clients that they get. Of course, the clients can vary in terms of the number or even the fees that they get. Of course, that's different. But when we're talking about the work, it's pretty much the same. It's not different. Even the only difference that I feel, and I just think it's a little unfair, or maybe it's fair, is that the big threes, the Bain, McKinsey, BCG kind of companies, they don't hire CA freshers very easily. They're looking
Correct.
at rankers. Again, they're looking at rankers not for their strategies job, they're looking at rankers for their finance jobs. So, a person who wants to get into management consultancy should first kind of gain experience around a big four because they can hire maybe a smaller, mid sized firm, a consultancy firm where you can learn the work. If you have those adequate years of experience, then you're eligible to apply for one of these profiles in the big three. In big three, what happens is like if you are a CA in a big four, people would say, okay, you are a finance specialist, so let's start with profits over here. You see the profits, and an MBA would look at sales, an engineer would look at the technical aspect. But while as a CA, also when I'm looking at finance, as I said, we can go upstream, downstream, and we can get a whole view of the picture. So
Correct.
once I'm doing that upstream, downstream, and getting the whole view of the picture for around 2 to 3 years, now I
Mhm.
get to know the exact business and the exact scenario. And now when I
Correct.
apply in all these companies, they take me for all of this because now you know it all. Now you are an
Right.
MBA equivalent to us. You're not just a finance specialist, you are a
Right.
management consultant. So
Right.
now we won't just give you problems which are finance related, we'll give you problems which are business related because now you are in a position to handle all of these.
Correct.
You
Correct.
have gotten that experience, you have that craft, we have seen your CV, we've interviewed you. Now you're good enough for us to kind of go ahead with the business problems, not just finance problems.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
that's what makes it different in the entry level process. But if you see the work, pretty much the same.
Okay. So I think like if for a fresher, if you're directly aiming at these companies and then you end up being disappointed that, oh, I
Yeah,
aimed of getting into this, but this didn't happen. I don't know. I'm
yeah,
depressed now. What to do with life? So I think that's not the
yeah,
right way. You go step by step. That is also going to take you there someday. And big
absolutely.
three is somewhere that if you are somebody whose approach is to get good hands-on experience, then I think the big fours or the small mid-sized firms is the way to go because
Yeah,
that's where you will actually get to do things on your
learn,
own.
yeah.
Like finance is
Mhm.
one thing that you will get to get into, but also you may get a little bit of client exposure. Like you may get little
Exactly,
opportunities to talk to the client, and that's what is
exactly.
important. So I think
Very, very important.
yeah, your target shouldn't be like to just get these nice looking brands on your CV. Rather,
Absolutely.
actual hands-on experience would take you a longer
Yeah,
way rather than just
very, very
having these,
important.
right?
Very
So I
important. Yeah,
think
yeah, yeah.
one should definitely think about targeting these companies as well and should
Right,
target more on getting experience, getting good and rich experience rather than just the
right.
names or the tags that one may
Of course, of
be
course.
fancied towards.
Very, very
So
important. I think it's extremely important for us to look at the profile rather than just the company.
it's just
If
the
you're getting
company.
strategies and operations out there in the big threes, I mean,
Mhm.
just take it. That's the best. But it's just that it's just too tough for a CA fresh to get. That's the
Correct,
only
correct.
thing. So might as well just go step by step and eventually reach there. Or even if you don't want to reach there, become partner over here in your
Right,
own company, or probably just have your own management consultancy firm. Even that's allowed as a practice now
correct.
by
Your
ICI.
clients, I think, may not be like initially it may be difficult for you to
Hmm.
fish the
Yeah,
clients, but then I think once
of
you've set
course.
up and you've made your name, then
Yeah,
that would be the best way to go ahead rather than
yeah, that would be the
getting
best.
into. So I think
Absolutely.
that is also one option that a lot of students do not keep in mind. But I think
Yeah.
Thinking about having your own thing was also something that one should
Of
be.
course, it has its own riddle to go ahead with. But I think that's why I always encourage a person to kind of go and work at a company so that while you're working with them, you exactly get to learn, and not just get to learn, but also with the client, you get to have some visibility and people see you
Right,
for what you do. The
exactly.
client also knows that, okay, this is the person who gets my work done. So
Exactly. So, Harshveer, if suppose a candidate couldn't make through in a management consultancy profile, then what are the nearby profiles that a candidate can rather go for? If not this particular domain, what is the close by options that one can explore?
all right. So
Yeah,
when we're looking at the close by options, there are definitely different firms have different nomenclatures to their profiles,
right,
and of course, management consultancy won't come as management consultancy in a lot of profiles in a lot of companies. So it can
correct.
come as finance transformation. Now that really hires good number of CAs in PwC. In
Mhm.
PwC, SDC, I would say, which is like the US constituent of PwC. I would normally not suggest you to join that because that is more of an offshore kind of a thing. So it won't give you a lot of ready client experience. So, of
Right,
course, in PwC India, you can join something like finance transformation. You can join finance transformation in KPMG. So, this finance transformation is one profile that you can look at in the job search to get into one of these management consultancy profiles. Then, of course, there is strategies on operations. That is another consultancy profile. It is offered by Deloitte. It is offered by companies like Accenture. So strategies on operations kind of come hand in hand with management consultancy, and it makes your entry into the big threes very easy with this kind of role because the work is pretty much the same. Now, there's business consulting. Now you get that a lot. You get that a lot in EY. You get that a lot in KPMG as well. Business consulting is also one of the options where you can get into, and that's a parallel profile of management consultancy. So you get exactly the same kind of experience. So these are kind of the profiles I would say. Now there's a profile which is close to management consultancy, but it's a different domain itself, and normally people confuse it with consultancy. And when they hear about what the work is, that is internal audit. A lot of people ask me what's the difference between internal audit and management consultancy. Now, when you do some work in internal audit, definitely an entry into the management consultancy profile is doable. It's possible. Definitely,
correct.
that's okay because the start of the work is pretty much the same. You get to interview the client. You get to understand the problem areas. You report to the management. You tell them, okay, these are the recommendations and these are the problems, and you leave it at that. But
Mhm.
as a consultant, as a management consultant, you actually go and prepare an implementation roadmap for them. You show them what
Right.
the changes are going to look like. And basically, if an internal auditor does A and B, then a
Mhm.
management consultant goes up till Z. So the A and B level definitely helps you get into this management consulting profile. I wouldn't say go for it if you want to go into it, but definitely if you're not getting any of these profiles, even finance transformation, business consulting, strategies on operations,
Mhm.
advisory, all of these things, if you're not getting, then you can get into internal audit. And I think after 1 or 2 years, shift into management consultancy in of course, a non-big three because big threes won't hire internal audit people. Then gain
Correct.
some experience over there and then go to the big three. So that's the kind of growth that you can probably see around internal audit coming into into management consultancy because that pretty much is the work which starts in a similar fashion, does not conclude, or the delivery is not the same. So that is how it works.
So I think these are the options that you can rather be open to, if not directly a management
Yeah,
consultancy profile, then these like the finance transformation, and then there's
yeah.
strategies and operations, there's risk analysis,
Mhm.
risk management, and these
Yes,
profiles, I think, or
yeah,
like a little further than the management consultancy profile would be internal audit, but it is still one step in the right direction, we could say, right?
exactly,
So
exactly.
I think if you
Yeah,
want to get closer to it, you can be open to all of these profiles, right?
right. Absolutely, absolutely.
So what does the growth trajectory in management consultancy look like? What does the hierarchy look like?
So, of course, you as a CA fresher join as a consultant, so as a
Mm.
management consultant, and then you become the assistant manager, which is like the senior consultant level. So when
Okay.
you're a consultant, of course, you are doing the brainstorming. Of course, you are coming up with solutions, and you are at that. You are basically interviewing the client and being at the ground. Now, when you are at the senior consultant level, you are more into the strategies. So your work then is less of the data analysis, more on the strategy side, more on the brainstorming side, more on either approving or rejecting a solution that you might hear from one of the consultants. So that is what your role is as a senior consultant. Then, of course, you make the manager. Now, the manager manages the whole engagement, not only the work but the engagement, the risk profiles. It checks the independence of the client that's coming in. So that's the role of a manager. And of course, handling 2 to 3 engagements is also one of the roles of the manager. So definitely you would be doing a lot of that as a manager, and also you would be bringing in a lot of clients as a manager as well. So you would have that kind of pitching technique as a manager itself.
Right.
It comes early in your career. Normally, in other profiles, it comes when you are a senior manager or a director.
Correct.
So that's what happens. But here the pitching part comes to you much early. And when the pitching part comes early, it's a very clear indication that even the profit sharing, that means the partner level, would not be so far away.
Mm.
So it's just after the manager, you make the director and then the executive partner and then the partner. So it's just 2 more steps and you're the partner, or probably
Right.
2.5 if we're looking at an associate partner. But it's just that when you become a manager, things become extremely easy for you because you are not down there working on the client. You can be, of course, if the client is big, but you're not exactly doing what a consultant does. You are basically on more of the solutioning, strategizing side, and everything of that sort, and handling 2, 3 projects at the same time. And when
Correct.
you're doing this, when you're pitching the clients, definitely you are closer to becoming a partner. So make sure you do a lot of those pitching things or pitching techniques you take from the managers that you work with while you are a consultant. That's something that I would really recommend, because that helps you become a partner in the near future, because it just gets a very clear, good image in front of the partner of you. So that's how the growth looks like. You can always switch, you can always exit and become the CFO, honestly. Because as a management consultant, you are the virtual CFO of the company because you're a CA as well. So, of course,
Mm.
that
Right.
comes in handy. If
Right.
you are just working in finance, you become CFO. But if you're
Yeah.
working in other things, then you become the CEO or something of lower. But
Mm-hmm.
definitely, that's something that looks like, oh, that's something that you would look at when you're looking at the exit. If you just don't want to become a partner, because this is not what I'm meant to stay in. I don't want to be in a consultancy firm all the time. Shift into an industry that you've worked in, that you have an industry experience, you have rich industry experience, and you have given a lot of solutions over there. Then clearly you understand the industry really well. You understand the pros and cons of that industry really well.
Correct. Correct.
So the exit would be really simple in one of these industries, and also making yourself to the C-suite or very close to the C-suite, that in 1 or 2 years you actually come up to the CFO or CEO level. So
Yeah.
that really happens a lot.
Okay, I think you've covered both the growth trajectory and what are the exit opportunities that
Yeah.
one may have. Like if suppose
Mhm.
they get into this and then maybe they are not so inclined towards it to go forward any further. They can also like
Yeah.
take these other routes that you just mentioned about.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I think we've covered most of the questions. Coming to our last question, and I think one of the most important criteria that one
Yeah.
definitely looks at before getting into any
Mhm.
profile, and that's about how much of money is one going to make. So
Oh, yes.
how
Yeah.
lucrative is this profile
Yeah.
whole essence?
So, traditionally, this profile was not open to CAs. This was an MBA profile.
Okay.
Always,
Yeah,
people
yeah, yeah,
always used
right.
to prefer MBAs getting, and it's such a common thing. It's not even a myth that MBAs definitely do make more money than CAs. I don't know why this happens, but they do. Now, since it's a traditional MBA profile and MBAs make a lot of money, now this profile makes a lot of money. So money is definitely going to be more than what a CA makes in audit or tax. So that's for sure, definitely, because you are solutioning over here, you're strategizing over here, and over, you're not basically, you're not complying with any kind of government formalities. You are thinking and strategizing and giving a solution there.
Right,
So
right.
that's, of course, of more value than anything else. And all of these audit and tax, I have this feeling that that might just get to an extent very automated in the near future, because we are
Definitely,
already having such
definitely.
tools in practice, and they are being trained at different levels of hierarchy. So they will get automated. But what will not get automated is the judgment, is the strategies, is the operations. So all of these things will not be automated. Your strategizing mind cannot be automated. So that will always require human effort. So I think getting into something like this would be great when also you have great money coming in. So this profile is definitely 100 times more lucrative than the basic CA profiles that we see around. So that's a great
Definitely.
thumbs up for the lucrativeness of
Uh,
this profile, if that's a word.
so I think
Yeah.
like you're in this particular domain. Why is it a niche domain? Because you are not in competition with any AI, with any
Hmm.
artificial intelligence. Here you don't have that
Yes.
risk of being replaced sooner or later. Like this is something that is always going to be reserved for human beings, because this is where you actually
Absolutely.
look at every aspect of business, use your own mind,
Always.
your own intelligence, your own judgment, and then
Yes.
your own observation and your own problem solving
Very true.
skills and a lot of other things
Yes.
goes into this profile. And that's
Hmm.
apart, keeping aside, obviously you get paid for something that you cannot be easily replaced at. But apart from
Right.
that, I think this as a profile management consultancy is the way forward, because a
Yeah.
taxation, and obviously we see like these days in audit also there is a lot of automation coming in. You just put in your data
Yeah.
and here is your report. So these
Work-based.
things
Yeah.
are going to get like vanished in the future. But this is one profile.
Right.
This is one of those many profiles, very few profiles in fact, that is
Exactly.
actually going to be reserved for human beings. And obviously you will get paid handsomely for something that you are like
Absolutely.
irreplaceable at.
Yes.
So I think
Absolutely.
that was a wonderful like roadmap. I think you've given us a good roadmap on what this
Yeah.
whole domain is, and I think
Hmm.
most of the questions that may come to a like a fresher's mind or a person who's experienced but wants to
Bridging.
get
Yeah.
into this profile would have. And I think thank you. We covered up most of it. Thanks for being so patient and
No,
answering
absolutely.
question.
Thank you for putting up such crisp questions. Definitely, these are very, very intrinsic questions, and everyone should know about them. And
Yeah,
it made me get in touch with the basics as well. So, of course, thanks to you with that as well.
it was wonderful having you on
Yeah.
board, Ashby. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you, Rishika. Thank you.